I saw myself in the mirror this morning. Not the quick glance you give yourself before you leave the house. Not that passing acknowledgement of your reflection. This was different. I stopped. I looked. Really looked. And I didn't recognize the person staring back at me right away. The face was familiar, of course, but there were lines I don't remember carving. A softness around the jaw I hadn't noticed appearing. Eyes that seemed older, wiser maybe, or just tired. I'm not sure which. Do you ever have moments like that, when you catch yourself by surprise? When you realize that somewhere between yesterday and today, time did its work without asking permission? I stood there longer than I meant to, and I thought about a photograph I have, somewhere in a drawer. Me, at 23, standing in front of an old car I can't even remember the make of anymore, smiling like the whole world was a secret only I understood. That person feels like a stranger now, and yet, I'm still here. There's a day I think about sometimes. I don't know why this particular day stayed with me when so many others faded away. It wasn't special. It wasn't important. It was a Saturday afternoon in summer, the kind of day where the heat wraps around you like a blanket, and the air smells like cut grass and distant rain that never quite arrives. I was sitting on the back porch with my father. He must have been around the age I am now, though at the time I thought he was ancient. We weren't talking much, just sitting, watching the trees sway, listening to the cicadas sing their endless song. He had a glass of iced tea sweating in his hand. I remember that. I remember the condensation running down the glass, leaving a ring on the wooden armrest of his chair. And I remember thinking, with the impatience of youth, I should be doing something. I should be somewhere else. I wanted to be anywhere but there, sitting in silence with my father on an unremarkable Saturday afternoon. But I stayed. I don't know why. Maybe I was too lazy to get up. Maybe some small part of me knew, even then, that these quiet moments mattered. He turned to me at one point and said something. I don't remember the exact words. Something about the trees or the weather, something forgettable. And I nodded, and we went back to sitting. That afternoon is gone now. That porch is gone. My father is gone. But I can still see that glass of tea, still hear those cicadas, still feel the weight of the heat on my shoulders. Time has a strange way of revealing what mattered. It's never the things you thought would be important. It's never the achievements or the plans or the grand moments you spent so much energy arranging. It's a Saturday afternoon, a glass of tea, silence shared with someone you loved. That's what stays. Growing old is not what I expected it to be. When you're young, you think about aging like it's a distant country you'll visit someday, a place that exists in theory but never quite feels real. You see old people and you think, that won't be me. Not really. I'll be different somehow. But then the years start moving faster. They slip by like water through your fingers. One decade bleeds into the next. And suddenly, you're not visiting that distant country anymore. You're living there. And it's not what you imagined. Nobody tells you what it actually feels like. They tell you about retirement and grandchildren and having more time. They talk about wisdom and experience and the golden years. But they don't tell you about the strange loneliness of outliving your context, of watching the world change into something you barely recognize, of hearing new music that sounds like noise and seeing new fashions that look like costumes, They don't tell you about the exhaustion. Not the physical kind, though that comes too, but the deeper exhaustion of simply being, of carrying all those years, all those memories, all those people you've loved and lost. They don't tell you that your body becomes a traitor, that it stops obeying you, that the things you could always count on, your strength, your balance, your clarity, start failing. One by one, like lights going out in a house you've lived in your whole life. You wake up with pain you didn't earn. You forget words you've known your entire life. You reach for something, and your hand doesn't quite cooperate. Your body becomes a stranger, just like your reflection in the mirror. And the world moves on without you. Your children grow up and build their own lives, and you're proud of them. Of course you are. But you also feel the distance. They call less, visit less. They're busy. They have their own worries now, their own families, their own Saturday afternoons on back porches. And you understand, you really do, because you were them once. But understanding doesn't make it easier. Friends disappear, not just through death, though that comes too, more and more often, but through distance, through time, through the simple fact that life pulls people in different directions. The friends you thought you'd know forever become people you exchange Christmas cards with, if that, and then they stop even that. The phone rings less, the invitations dry up, the world finds you less necessary, less relevant. You're still here, but you're quieter now. You take up less space. People look through you in grocery stores. Waiters ignore you in restaurants. You've become invisible in a way you never were before. Not because you've changed, but because the world has decided you're no longer part of the main story. You're a side character now. Background noise in someone else's narrative. That's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Getting old means becoming irrelevant. It means watching yourself slowly disappear from the world's attention. And some days, that hurts more than any physical pain. But here's the other truth, the one that takes longer to understand. Getting old also means letting go of things that never mattered as much as you thought they did. All that worry, all that striving, all those arguments you thought were so important, the grudges you held, the pride you protected, the image you spent so much energy maintaining. It falls away, not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, like leaves falling from a tree in autumn. One by one, until you're standing bare, and you realize the weight you were carrying wasn't protecting you. It was just heavy. You stop caring what people think, not because you're brave, but because you finally understand how little it matters. You understand that everyone is so wrapped up in their own story that they barely notice yours. And that's liberating. You start saying no to things you don't want to do. You start saying yes to things that bring you peace. You stop pretending. Stop performing. Stop trying to be anyone other than who you are. You learn that time is the only thing you never get back, and you become more careful with it, more protective. You don't waste it on people who drain you, on conversations that go nowhere, on obligations that serve no purpose except tradition. You become selfish in the best possible way. You sit in the sun longer. You watch the birds. You take your time eating breakfast. You call old friends just to hear their voice. You say, "I love you" more often because you know, deeply now, that there's no promise of tomorrow. You understand that life isn't about the big moments. It's about the accumulation of small ones. The morning coffee, the good book, the comfortable silence, the way the light comes through the window at a certain time of day. These aren't small things anymore. They're everything. I think about death more now than I used to. Not in a morbid way, not with fear, though the fear visits sometimes, late at night when the house is quiet and sleep won't come, but with curiosity, with acceptance, with a strange kind of peace. Death used to be an abstraction, a concept, something that happened to other people, in other families, in other stories. Now it's a companion, a presence, the thing waiting patiently at the end of the road. I've lost so many people. Parents, friends, siblings, people I thought would be here forever. And each loss changed me. Each absence taught me something. It taught me that life is a series of goodbyes, small ones and large ones, temporary ones and permanent ones, and that the trick isn't avoiding the goodbyes. It's learning to say them with grace. It's learning to love people fully, knowing they won't be here forever, knowing you won't be here forever. It's learning to hold on loosely, to appreciate what you have while you have it, without clinging so tightly that you crush it. My parents used to seem so permanent, so solid. They were the foundation of the world. And then, one day, they weren't here anymore, and the world didn't collapse like I thought it would. It just changed. It became quieter, emptier in some ways, but also fuller in others. Because now, when I think of them, I don't just remember them. I understand them. I understand why my father sat on that porch in silence, why my mother hummed while she washed dishes, why they moved slower, spoke softer, worried less about the future and more about the present. They knew something I'm only learning now, that life is short and long at the same time, that it moves fast and slow, that you can spend decades building something and lose it in a moment, that the people you love are temporary gifts, and the only proper response is gratitude. Do you remember when you thought you had forever? When life stretched out ahead of you like an endless highway? When you believed you'd have time for everything? Time to fix your mistakes. Time to chase your dreams. Time to become the person you always thought you'd be. I remember that feeling. And I remember when it changed. When forever quietly became limited. It wasn't a single moment. It was a gradual awareness, like watching the sun set. You don't notice it happening until suddenly the light is different and you realize the day is almost over. That's where I am now. Late afternoon. The light is golden and soft, but there's no denying that evening is coming. And you know what? That's all right. I'm not who I thought I'd be. I haven't done everything I thought I'd do. There are dreams I never chased, trips I never took, words I never said. And I've made peace with that. Because I also did things I never planned, loved people I never expected to meet, survived losses I didn't think I could survive, learned lessons I didn't know I needed to learn. My life wasn't perfect. It wasn't extraordinary. It probably wouldn't make a very interesting movie, but it was mine, and that's enough. The house is quieter now than it used to be. There was a time when these rooms were full of noise and energy and movement, children running, doors slamming, music playing, voices talking over each other at the dinner table. Now it's just me and the quiet. Some days the silence feels heavy, like a weight pressing down, like an absence that echoes in every empty room. But other days the silence feels like peace. I can hear things I never noticed before, the way the house settles, The wind moving through the trees outside, the birds in the morning, my own breathing, my own heartbeat. I can think without interruption, remember without distraction, exist without performance. The quiet has taught me to be alone without being lonely, to find company in my own thoughts, to appreciate solitude not as a punishment, but as a gift. I talk to myself sometimes, out loud. Is that strange? I tell stories to the empty rooms. I remember things that no one else remembers. I keep people alive, in my words, because that's what we become, in the end. Stories, memories, echoes in the minds of the people who loved us. And when those people are gone, we're truly gone. Unless we told our stories, unless we shared what we learned, unless we left something behind besides photographs and possessions. That's why I'm talking now. Not because I have great wisdom, not because I've figured everything out, but because I've lived. And living means something, even if it's just this. I was here. I loved. I lost. I learned. I tried. I was here. There's a photograph on my wall. It's been there so long I barely see it anymore. But today, I looked at it. Really looked. It's a family picture. Everyone's smiling. Everyone's together. Everyone's young. And I realized most of the people in that photograph are gone now. Not just gone from the room. Gone from the world. That moment captured in the photograph. That single afternoon when we all gathered and smiled and stood together. That moment is all that's left. A few seconds frozen in time. And I wonder, did we know? Did we understand even then how precious it was? How temporary? Probably not. That's the tragedy of being human. We never quite appreciate the moment while we're in it. We're always thinking about the next thing, the next day, the next year. We're always somewhere else in our minds. But the photograph doesn't lie. It says, this was real. These people existed. This love happened. And even though they're gone, the love remains. Not in the same way. Not in a way you can touch or hold, but it remains. In memories, in habits they taught you, in the way you laugh like your mother, in the way you tell stories like your father, in the things you value because they valued them first. The people we love leave fingerprints on our souls, and those fingerprints don't fade just because the hands that made them are no longer here. We carry them. We carry all of them. Every person we've ever loved, every lesson we've ever learned, every moment that mattered. We carry it all until we can't anymore. And then someone else carries us. That's how it works. That's how love survives death. That's how meaning transcends time. We remember. We honor. We carry forward. I don't know how much time I have left. None of us do, really. But when you're young, you can pretend forever is real. When you're old, the pretending stops. Maybe I have years. Maybe I have months. Maybe I have decades. Though that seems less likely with each birthday that passes. It doesn't frighten me the way it used to. Or maybe it does. But I've learned to live with the fear. To make room for it without letting it consume everything. What frightens me more is the idea of wasting whatever time remains. Of spending it worrying about things that don't matter. Of holding grudges that serve no purpose. Of being too proud or too stubborn to say what needs to be said. So, I'm trying to do things differently now. I'm trying to love people while they're here. To tell them what they mean to me. To forgive old wounds. To let go of old anger. I'm trying to be present. To notice the small things. To find joy in the ordinary. to appreciate the gift of another morning, another sunrise, another chance to be alive. I'm trying to be gentle with myself, with others, with this strange, beautiful, painful process of growing old and letting go. Because that's what aging is, in the end. It's one long lesson in letting go. You let go of your youth, your strength, your certainty, your control. You let go of the person you thought you'd become, the life you thought you'd have, the future you thought you'd build. You let go of people you love, places you cherished, moments you wish you could live again. You let go of the past, even though it lives in you. You let go of the future, even though you once believed you owned it. You let go, piece by piece, day by day, until all that's left is this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. And maybe that's the real gift of growing old. Not the wisdom, not the experience, not the perspective, but the simplicity, the clarity that comes when everything else falls away, and you're left with what actually matters: love, connection, presence, peace. The realization that you were always enough, that you always had enough, that the thing you were searching for was never somewhere else. It was here, in the quiet, in the ordinary, in the simple act of being alive and paying attention. I'll leave you with this. One day, someone will think of you for the last time. They'll remember your face, your voice, something you said or did, and then they'll go back to their life, and they won't think of you again. Not because you didn't matter, but because that's how time works. That's how memory works. We all fade eventually. We all become stories, and then we become forgotten stories, and then we become nothing at all. And that's all right, because before we fade, we exist. We love. We matter. We touch other lives in ways we'll never fully know. We sit on back porches on summer afternoons. We hold hands in hospital rooms. We tell jokes at dinner tables. We show up. We try. We care. We're here. And for as long as we're here, that's enough. So be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with your aging body, your fading memory, your slower pace. You've earned every year, every line, every gray hair. You've survived every loss, every heartbreak, every disappointment. You're still here, still breathing, still capable of love, of joy, of wonder. That's not small. That's everything. And when your time comes to let go, and it will come for all of us, I hope you can do it with peace in your heart. I hope you can look back and think, I lived. I truly lived. Not perfectly, not extraordinarily, but honestly, fully, with as much love as I could give. And maybe that's the real beauty of growing old. Not that we stay the same, not that we avoid the pain, not that we conquer time, but that we learn, finally, to stop fighting, to accept, to surrender, to trust that the life we lived was enough, exactly as it was, to let go and to rest.